Good morning. My name is Tom. I come to you from the Rustic log cabin in Northern Maine. Welcome to my cabin today. Get yourself a cup of coffee. I'll tell you what we got in store today. It's cloudy today. It's a little bit humid, so the thick Maine blood doesn't like that. But what we're working on today, we're gearing up to build the new cabin over at Beaver Creek. So if you haven't stumbled across the channel by now and you don't know what Beaver Creek is, go back a few videos and see how I bartered for a piece of hunting property in western Maine. So today, this property is a mile back in the woods. So we're building a cabin back there. A small one. It's just going to be a hunter's cabin. Nothing major. Just enough to get in out of the wind, hang your hat, and have a nice warm place to spend the night. But I've got to get a lot of materials back in. I'm still waiting on the sawmill. For those of you that want to know what's going on with the craziness that's going on in the country this year, getting lumber has been quite difficult. I ordered the lumber from a sawmill about 6 weeks ago, which normally would take about 3 weeks to get at the most. They are so backed up with orders because of people switching from regular lumber from the lumber yards because of the high prices to rough sawn hemlock that I have been using for 30 years. So I'm not used to having so many people using my lumber yard. Good business for them, not so good for me this year where I'm trying to build a building. But anyways, we'll have that stuff hopefully within a couple of weeks. The cement pads are already hauled in. So what I need to work on now is I have a red trailer that goes behind this six-wheeler. You might have seen me using it last fall to gather firewood at the Rustic log cabin. Well, what I need to do now is I need to turn that utility trailer into a flatbed trailer for the back of this six-wheeler. And being a flatbed, I'll be able to put my lumber on it, strap it down, and I need to haul all of the lumber 1 mile back in the woods on a wheeler trail, a four-wheeler trail. So that trailer will be perfect. I'm going to take the sides off it. I'm going to build it so that it'll be roughly 3 feet by 8 feet. My longest materials that need to go in are 12 feet, so that'll ride nicely on an 8-foot bed. I need to build it so that it's in 2 pieces, so that I can haul the six-wheeler and the utility trailer over to the new cabin location in 1 trailer load. So that I will assemble the trailer once I get it hauled over there. I'm going to make it so that I can bolt the deck on and off fairly easy with wing nuts and stuff like that. And that way I can haul the trailer back and forth or do whatever I need to do with it. Depending on the day and what's going on the build. But if you remember that utility trailer last fall, it had a flat tire. Well, I bought it with a flat tire, and that was about at least 5 years ago. But it didn't really matter hauling out the firewood. It pulled behind the six-wheeler, no problem on the flat tire. But now, the reason I didn't change it is I couldn't get it off. So I've been spraying WD-40 and stuff like that on it twice a year, 3 times a year, ever since I bought the trailer. And I was able to this last week. I said I'm going to give it a try and see if I can get them wheels off there. Well, by golly, them lug nuts loosened up and I was able to get the wheel off. So now the wheel is at the tire shop, putting a used tire on it. Doesn't need to be anything fancy for a four-wheeler trailer. Well, the next trip into the new site, the new campsite over on Beaver Creek, it's going to be leveling up the area where the cabin's going to go. I've got a couple of stumps that are in the way, so I'm going to cut those down, big stumps. How I'm going to level it up, I've already hauled some of this material home from the cabin. I dragged it up there 10 years ago when I bought that cabin because we had to level up the driveway, level up just the plain yard stuff around the cabin. And what I have for that is a piece of chain link fence. Now, that chain link fence, I can't even tell you when, I know where I got it. I can't tell you how many years ago, but it was at least 25 years ago. It was a piece of chain link fence that was thrown on the dump. And it has a piece of steel running through one end of it that keeps it all together. So you drag that behind the, back then I would drag it behind a riding lawnmower. And that's how I would level up yard work and stuff like that before the grass grew. But this time I've got a little bigger task for it. So last winter, if you remember in some of my videos, I changed the tire on the John Deere tractor. Well, I've still got that tire. So I'm going to take that tire and I'm going to mount it on top of the chain link fence and probably fill it up with rocks inside the actual tire with some, fist-sized rocks that I can get in there fairly easy. I'm going to drag that back and forth on my trail. You saw in the last video, or a couple videos back, where I had come out to the snowmobile trail. I want to level that up a little bit before I start hauling in lumber, just because it'll make hauling the loads in that much easier. And I also still need to make the loop trail, as well as just level stuff up around the cabin area so it's just plain easier to walk, and especially where the cabin's going to go. I want to level that up as much as I can. It's already going to be tough enough to get those pads in the way that I want them to. But that chain link fence will help a lot. And if that doesn't work, I have a piece of concrete down back that weighs, probably about 300 pounds. I can put that on top of that tire and inside the tire if I have to. So we'll see what works the best. Go ahead, have a sip of coffee. I've still got some more I want to talk about. One of the ways that I keep the cost down on cabins like this that I've built, especially when it's coming out of my pocket, is I save up the parts and pieces. Well, yesterday, and what I mean by save up the parts and pieces is there's a tradition in this state that instead of just throwing something out on the dump, if you think someone else can use it, you set it out at the end of your driveway, and if someone can use it, they'll stop and pick it up. Well, yesterday I was on my way to town, and there was a house that was changing out some windows. So they stuck their old windows out on the lawn with a great big free sign. And they're just the perfect size. There was 3 of them, nothing major. I'm going to make my windows so they're like my cabin windows, so they open in like this and then hang from a chain from the ceiling, so that slam shut, put a couple of deadbolts on it, and I've got a good closing window that I can open for airing out the cabin and all of that. So that's one way. I mean, that you could spend $300-400 per window when you're putting in a cabin like that. I built cabins for 30 years. That's about what the windows cost. So that's a huge cost in building a small cabin, is coming up with the windows. So yesterday's little find beside the road was exactly what I was looking for. The same thing with the wood stove. A few years ago, I picked one up on the side of the road for, it had a for sale sign on it, but I think it was around, I can't exactly remember because I've collected a lot of these stoves over the years. I've still got 4 more. So I guess I still got 4 more cabins to build. But I just cannot drive by an old wood stove that's sitting there either free or for sale. And I believe this one was about $50. So a little bit of elbow grease work there, a little bit of elbow grease to clean her up, and I'll have a nice looking stove. I will show you the video on that later on down the road, probably when I'm trucking it into the cabin. So that's how I come up with the parts and pieces. Same thing with the gas lights that are going in. If any of you remember, I took apart an old camper a couple of years ago. That's in my videos if you want to go back and look. A Country Boy Will Survive kind of video. In that camper, I salvaged the gas stove, which will be going into this cabin. It's a 3-burner gas stove with an oven. Everything works great on it. I was able to salvage a gas light. That'll be going in this cabin. So these pieces are quite expensive if you have to go purchase them. Go ahead, grab yourself another cup of coffee. An old camper has a lot of good parts in it if you're getting ready to build a cabin out in the bush, especially a small trapper's cabin like I'm getting ready to build, hunting cabin. You've got the gas stove, gas lights, regulator, all kinds of stuff can come out of a camper that you can repurpose into one of these old buildings. And same thing with the windows. You can take out, crank out windows, all that stuff out of a camper. But that's the plans for what's coming up here next. Today I'm going to, like I said, working on that trailer. So I appreciate you all coming along, and I will see you in the next one.